Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our last launches letter, which is story. Usually my partner in crime, Chelsea, is here today, is here always, but today she's not feeling very well. So it'll just be me, and we're gonna run through this. So if you don't know me already, my name is Courtney Bell. My story starts with basically very much early back in the day when I was very young. I was raised in an alternative practitioner's household. My mother was a alternative healthcare practitioner. Ever since I can remember, she started out with magnets and oils and yoga and all the things. So I have been an advocate of alternative health practices my whole life. And I have a background in marketing and education. And I've worked for a health fitness company as a graphic designer and marketing director. And I have a master's in neuroscience and education from Columbia as well. So I like to kind of tie in the neuroscience aspect of marketing, which is really interesting. I always like to preface that and say, I'm all for marketing for good. It can be kind of slimy and gross, the practices that marketing people try to play on weaknesses and that sort of thing. And I like to, being kind of an alternative thinker, try and think of it in a way that's more positive than that and think of how we can come up with strategies to really help people instead of, you know, prey on their weaknesses. So I'll tie in some neuroscience facts today as we go through. And no one was an expert in this, so always feel free to ask questions. Have fun with it. Think of this as a physical store that you get to curate and have fun with. So things constantly change. It is an ever-growing industry, which is what we both love and hate about it, I'm sure. All right, so like I said, this is our last launches webinar today, and we're so glad you're here. And it is story. So let's hop into story. And let's start with our story. So our story started with our CEO, a functional medicine patient who had a very disjointed experience at his doctor's office. It was so disjointed in fact that he felt it was comical. So he was suffering with some issues, went to go get some testing, and he had a great experience, discovered that he was gluten intolerant and all of these things he never knew before, and it changed his life. However, when he went to get all of his supplements and all of the products that were recommended, it was a very, very disjointed experience for him. He had to go to an affiliate site, he had to go to a dispensary, he had to go to the brand, he had to go all of these different places online and even in the office. And he thought, why don't we just combine all of these things into one experience? So he thought of the idea for Get Healthy having a background in e-commerce. So Get Healthy was born, and we are able to combine the, all of your favorite brands, from equipment to supplements to health to home care to personal to all sorts of categories, even testing and education now. So it's a wonderful story, and we're so happy that it happened. Now, if you'll notice, there was a hook there, but I would say if you want to hook someone in, so we're going to talk about the structure of the story a little bit here. A good story always has a who, what, when, where, and why, right? And you want to hook people in right at the beginning. I could have probably started with a quote or an interesting fact, or even something surprising, or something like that. Even a question that gets people thinking. Those are 4 ways that you can think of a hook that draws people in. And then once you start explaining a little bit more, you can have a rising action. So I kind of went into the detail about, his experience and and what was happening. And the pinnacle or the climax was he thought of this idea. He thought of Get Healthy to kind of bring all this together. And that was the solution. And then if you are trying to create sort of a story for yourself, this is the basic story structure you want to follow. So think back to your high school, English course, but think of it in terms of your story. If you're telling your story, then you need to be sure to have these elements in it. And we'll kind of dive deeper into how you can make this story really engaging for your personal story. So I didn't tell my personal story. I just told, our CEO, John Armstrong's story, and you can tell yours in a way that's much more personal than what I'm able to tell about someone else, right? So that's the wonderful thing about it. Now you want to start with the why, right? Why did you start your practice? Why did you do what you're doing now? Why did you start it? Why did you get to the point where you are? And this is extremely important, and we'll go into why this is important in a minute, but people want to know why you are doing what you're doing. And if you give them that hook and you start to give them a little bit of information about yourself, it can really start to make them feel more comfortable with you. And the reason why, I'll kind of just jump into the neuroscience aspect of this here, is because you are releasing oxytocin in the brain when you are telling a story, which is the love hormone, but it also is something that's released when stories are told because people start to feel more comfortable. So this says hacking oxytocin. There was a study done about trying to hack how researchers could make people feel more comfortable and release oxytocin in a controlled way. So what they did is they discovered that storytelling, they had a little lead on oxytocin release and storytelling. So they decided to take blood draws before and after telling people stories and drawing them in with emotion, and specifically character-driven stories like we're talking about here. And they discovered that the amount of oxytocin released by the brain predicted how much people were willing to help others. So, donating money to a charity or something like that. So it's directly affecting how people are responding, how much oxytocin is released. So again, it plays on this idea of empathizing. You'll see here too, I have sustaining attention through tension. A little bit of a mouthful, but basically what that means is there's got to be some problem or some tension in the story. Ideally, you can kind of draw people in, and it's not to play on their weakness. It's really to help them empathize with you, and so they can feel that you're really coming from an authentic and genuine place, because hopefully you are, and I'm sure all of you are. But sometimes, it might be hard for us to really tap into what our patients are going through, or, getting to that deeper level with them because, they're not willing to share, or, they don't feel comfortable or as comfortable with you. So a story is a great way to increase that comfort level. So again, starting with the why, you can see it's kind of here at the core, and then working outwards. How you can kind of start working outwards from there, discussing, not only the why. So now you've established kind of, again, the core of your story and your core relationship, but moving outward to the how and what do you do differently or exceptionally, right? I'm talking about, how you do what you do. And so people kind of, they're drawn in already because they care about what you're saying. And then what? Then you can kind of talk about the products or the services, because again, there's a level of trust that's been established here. So just a few tips for different levels. So if you're at the beginner stage, what's really cool about our store is there are different ways that you can incorporate your store ethos. And the way you can do that, for instance, is you can incorporate products and in products descriptions, your own custom descriptions, your own custom videos. You can really incorporate your practice and your ethos into your store in very unique ways. So I would recommend, if you're a beginner, start by one single product that you really, really believe in and create a video for it and create some custom text for it and have us insert that into the product itself on the product description and start to build out, your store so that it feels more like a relationship. It's not just a transaction and you're not just trying to get people to purchase something, but you're still there for them through the whole store journey. Another way to do this is to start with your marketing homepage. So if you're at the beginner level, make sure that you have your marketing homepage built and it reflects your brand and it reflects your ethos. What are your values and what are you about? If you are growing, go next to, maybe you started with your product or your marketing homepage. Now start to build those bundles and start to build not only the products themselves inside the bundles, but the descriptions and the content and the videos and all the things that could really, really level up your bundle page so that, again, when people go there, they understand why you're recommending this or why you usually recommend it or why you believe in it. And then if you're scaling, you can tell your private label brand story. So this is really important to your story and your brand, making sure that your private label story is told, because there's a reason why you are private labeling, right? There's a reason why you want your label on that product as opposed to the brand's label. So tell that story, tell why you want that, why that's important to you. What are the ingredients and why did you choose the products that you did? We could build a custom landing page for you so that you could have your private labels on just one page. And then we could build out some content for you about your brand specifically. All right, that's it for us today. But what I'll say about story is that it's really, really important, as you can tell, making sure that your store, but your whole online experience reflects your brand. And what's wonderful about your Good Healthy store is that you can tie in so many different elements that make your store an experience that people are learning through the whole process. They're learning and they're engaging, and not only that, but it's not a cold page, or it's not an overly manufactured marketing page either. It's a page that you've created and that you've customized, and you're really there to educate and care for them. Again, playing on that emotion, that empathy, and consistently really thinking about what that person's going to see when they go to your store and how they feel when they do. So if you have any questions, as always, feel free to let your account manager know. You can also reach out to marketing@gethealthy.store if you have any questions for me. And thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time.